Welcome to this special edition of Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. Today, I'm excited to be joined by USC baseball alum Jason Starrels. You can go follow him on Instagram at Jason Starrels. And Jason, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you and talk to you about your just journey with USC baseball, especially because you joined the team as a walk-on, which I think is super fascinating.
Yeah, I did. It was a long road. It's a long, hard road, but I did it. It was really fun. I won't change a thing. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, how are you today so far?
Pretty good. It's a little rainy outside, so I mean, whatever. But no, it's pretty good. It's been a chill day, so yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think definitely talking to you, I think is going to be super fascinating, especially because something you mentioned when we were kind of first discussing this, having you on was the role or just presence of walk-ons in college sports may change very soon with the pending settlement of the House case. So I think it's definitely very interesting to hear what it's like to hear your journey for sure.
Yeah, mine is unique. I was one of the walk-ons that literally showed up to school. Um, and a lot of the walk-ons you hear about are the preferred walk-ons, and the coaches know about them. I kind of was already at school and was emailing the coaches and saying like, "Hey, I want to try out. I want to come out and pitch, throw a bullpen, whatever." And went out there, and the pitching coach at the time was like, "Okay, yeah, we can work with this. Like, you'll be on the fall, and then you'll be here the whole fall, and then we'll see about the spring." But yeah, it's gonna. I think it'll change a lot because the shifting of college baseball with the unlimited scholarships, or maybe it's not unlimited, but it's more, significantly more. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think for sure. Like, I think definitely we'll have more clarity once it's definitely finalized. But for now, it's definitely just, it does seem like it's going to change a lot.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that I'd like to kind of now get into the interview for sure.
hmm
So I want to kind of start back kind of when you first got into baseball. Like how old were you when that happened? Just what got you into it?
Um, well, first time, I think I was four. Um, T-ball, as a lot of guys do. I didn't start playing competitively until I was 12. Like that's when a travel ball back then started and going to tournaments. I mean, being in Southern California, we were lucky, so there was tournaments almost everywhere. But we did drive to Arizona, Nevada, um, like local state, nearby states for travel ball tournaments with club teams and everything. And then high school, obviously. Um, yeah, it was just it didn't really start till I was 12, I would say.
Yeah, and then kind of what was that like, going on like all those like road trips? You talked about really going out of state to play sometimes.
So the yeah, it was weird, especially at that age because it was kind of like thrown on us. The first tournament I went to was actually the Cooperstown Dreams Park tournament. I'm sure, actually, I saw Austin O'Verne posted something, and he was wearing a Dreams Park like windbreaker, and I was like, "Hey, I know that windbreaker." Like, and a lot of guys go to that, and it's a 12U tournament. It's a big tournament in Cooperstown, New York. So that was the first one, and it was big for a 12-year-old team to go across the country. Um, but it was a lot of just time away from social life. That's kind of what I wanted. Like in middle school, I think I had a tournament every other weekend. Um, so a lot of times it was like people would go be hanging out at someone's house, and I'd be like, "No, we got a tournament. I can't go." Like, sorry. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah, I sort of know a little bit about that grind because my brother did travel ball, so I remember he'd be like gone. I don't think he did too many out of states, but he did do the Cooperstown one when he was 12 with his travel ball team. So I heard a
yeah,
little bit about it.
it was really fun. That tournament. I think it's changed a lot. I think there's two parks there now. I don't know. It's so different now. It was a long time ago when I was there.
This is about like 5, 6 years ago, so I bet even then it's changed a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then, kind of, what made you just stay with baseball, like as you were growing up, even when things were getting tough? Maybe you're going through a bit of a slump, or just you just hit the wall, kind of.
Um, I just loved it. I was one of those players in middle school and high school that I kind of played a bunch of positions. I went to a small high school too, so I had to play a bunch of positions. Um, but I played first, I played third, I played outfield, I caught, which would make a lot of my college teammates laugh if they heard that. Um, in high school. But I just loved it. I think every time I was thrown to a nightmare coach or was in a slump and was like, I want to quit, I just kind of was very quickly reminded of my favorite parts of it. Whereas, like, okay, if I haven't gotten a hit in 3 games, then I'd be like, I go and pitch really well, and I'd be like, okay, this is fun again. Like,
Gotcha. Yeah. And then kind of you talked about, obviously when you got to college, you were definitely playing a pitcher. You're on the team as the pitcher. So what was that? What kind of drew you towards, kind of pitching more as, you kind of were maybe getting further through high school or as, trying to, I guess, maybe, and I'll ask you this more as, we talked about what you're recruiting, if any, it looked like kind of what drew you to more want to just kind of pitch primarily.
um, yeah, so I started to realize I wanted to pitch primarily later in high school. Um, and I really started to focus on that. Um, and it, I remember my high school coach at the time, I could tell didn't agree with my choice. He really liked me at third base. I didn't see it. I'm just I did not I didn't love third base. I didn't think I was that good at third base, but he really pushed for me to play third. And I was a right-handed thrower, left-handed bat, and he liked that. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But I really started to pitch later in high school, and I loved the kind of stress, the like you're in charge. Like if you're not doing well, like it's clearly visible. Like everyone can see it. So it's there's I loved that. I loved the pressure. So,
It's kind of I find that really interesting, Jason, honestly. That it's just like you kind of, I just love it or maybe even thrive on it.
yeah, and let me tell you, like, and I told myself it was going to be this way, but like I never really understood it until I was there. The difference from high school to college, especially my high school, was I mean, I can't even explain. It was such a difference. And like, I get to college with SC, and after the many years in between, and I was like, oh, these hitters are really good, top to bottom, all of them. Like, there's no, like, we would play some schools and like the 7, 8, 9, or sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9 are just like freshmen who don't want to be there. And any good pitcher, no matter if it's me or uh, several other guys who were decent pitchers. They weren't very good, so they were easy outs. Call it was like 1 to 9 hard outs. Like every single guy is a good hitter, and I'm just like, oh, this is hard. Like okay, like like and so that was my first year. It was a pretty big awakening. Like I faced a couple of my teammates in inter squads, and I was like, oh yeah, you just okay, they're good.
I love that.
Um, yeah, I mean, but again, like loved it. Like I love like so.
Yeah, and then I do want to ask you kind of about like, did you consider trying to play college ball right out of high school? Were you more focused on choosing your school based on academics, and like, were you trying to walk on to USC? Kind of, what was just your college process like? Because I'm sure it was by no means like what it traditionally is for like an athlete coming to USC.
No, no, not at all. It was I was the only one with something like this. Like all the guys had, or almost all of them had official visits and were recruited by several schools. I was recruited only by a couple Division 3 schools. I had no D1 offers out of high school. I knew I wanted to at least try. That was what I was telling myself. I want to try. I want to give it a shot. And yes, there was a little bit of I want to be at a school that one I'll be happy at academically, socially, and just like student life. And for me, growing up in LA, I knew SC was that way. Like I knew I would have been happy at SC. Um, and I actually went to visit a school, a Division III school, um, over in Ohio, and baseball program was fine. Like guys were okay. I just like I couldn't do a small school like that. I was like I like even if I'm playing and playing every game, like I might not have been a pitcher. I might have been a two-way there. I don't know. Um, I was just like the small school. I want to be somewhere bigger. Like that was just my thing. So I started to say, you know what, like, and this was senior year of high school. I was like, um, I'm gonna go to a big school and I'm gonna email the coach and just try out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I gave it a shot. Let's just do that. So
Gotcha. Yeah. And then I do want to ask you about kind of your first 2 years of college when you weren't yet on the team. So how were you, still staying involved with baseball? And I'm guessing you were, obviously talking with Dan Hubbs, who was the coach at the time, trying to get on the team. And obviously, I know it didn't work out. But what was that like process of trying to communicate with him?
so I after everything with universities went down, I basically narrowed it down to Tulane and USC. I had a spring admit to Tulane, academically, no baseball, um, for what would be my freshman year of college. And I talked to that coach and was clear, like it was their roster was full, like they weren't going to do it. And I was like, okay, so if I go to Tulane, I'm not playing baseball. And I was like, all right, I want to go to community college in LA and try to transfer into USC. And because Hubs, I was emailing him back and forth. I'd gone to a bunch of camps as a high schooler. He knew me. Um, and he knew I wasn't their typical arm pitcher. I wasn't throwing 90 miles an hour, but I was throwing strikes. I had multiple pitches. And he knew, he was like, all right, I'll give you a shot in the fall. So I knew there was a chance. That's really what I was doing. So it was just emails. Um, and so community college, and then it was tough because my community college year, I then got a spring admit the next year at SC. And Hub said this was fall 18, spring 19. So that year. Um, he said, your tryout would be fall. And if you're not a student in the fall, I can't have you on the team. Totally understand. I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I talked to admissions. They unfortunately said there's nothing they can do. I'm in spring. And he was like, all right, well, keep working out, keep throwing, and then maybe next fall. Um, Next fall, Jason Gill came in. So it was a whole nother coaching staff, um, that I had to deal with, and I did.
Gotcha. And then obviously you talked, and then obviously I know you played for Ventura County, and I know that because I actually was interning there. For people who don't know, I did play by play for this club up in LA Valley. And Jason, you played there. So what was it like, having working with Ventura County to help prepare you, especially for when, Jason Gill took over USC, and then George Renault, the director and owner of Ventura County, helped kind of help facilitate in a lot of ways to help you at least get a shot with them.
Yeah. So my time with Ventura County, I loved those guys. I played one summer. I was actually, so immediately after high school, I was rehabbing an injury. I had There was a slight tear in my labrum and tendonitis, and I just had to do it. The tear did not require surgery, but it was just injury. So I went to George Renault at Ventura County, and I was like, I just need a place to play once I'm now healthy-ish. I was like, I need a rehab, I need innings, I need to pitch. And I went to a bunch of different summer teams, and they all required a Division I coach to sign off on on me to play for them. George was like, I got two teams. I got you. Like, Like, come with me. Like, there was the Ventura County Bucks and the Ventura County Pirates. My first summer with him was with the Bucks, and it was just getting some innings. I explained to him my goal, and he was like, "All right, that's pretty hard to walk on SE, but I can certainly help you out in best way I can." He was great. I love George. Um, and and then the next summer, still not on SE yet, um, played for the Pirates and like was got some innings, was able to tell the coaches at SC, I'm getting some innings, like here's what I'm doing. And they were like, all right, yeah, come try out.
And then kind of what was it like when you finally, made the team, and how do you like what was that like when the staff told you that you'd finally made the team at USC?
Um, so it was, I mean, I don't even, it was a rush. Like I actually found out um, through one of the captains like the weekend before. Um, and like there were like, if you were an outsider looking in, you kind of knew, but I didn't. Like it was me and one other walk on. His name is Frank Yokas. He was still one of my good friends. Great guy. Um, in the fall of my first year, they took 5 walk-ons, just like me, just showed up, and they only took 2 for the spring. But I found out a couple of the captains told me like the weekend before, and I was like, so I kind of knew, but it was still like when Coach Gill in our pre-practice meeting like announced to the team that me and Frank had made the spring roster. I just remember like guys erupted like high fives or whatever, congratulating us, and I was just like, it was a rush because it was just this thing that like I kind of like set so far ahead, and like in the back of my mind was kind of telling myself this isn't going to happen. Like there's no way I make a spring roster for USC, and I did. I mean, I think Ted Silva, the pitching coach at the time, I was throwing a bullpen next to Ben Wanger, and he played for Team Israel in the Olympics. Like he's played at Yale. And he actually made a joke. He was like, Starrels, like, you know how you made this team? And I was like, this was in the spring sometime. And I was like, I just had a good fall. Like, like whatever. And he goes, no. Like, and he turns to Wanger and he goes, this guy, I gave him 20 pitches as a tryout and he threw 20 strikes. And I was like, I don't think that's okay. Like, I'm speaking modestly as I can. And um, Silva said that, and Wanger was like, that's pretty good. And he was like, Silva goes, I knew I had to give him a shot. And I didn't even know. Like, my tryout was such a blur. I don't remember it.
Gotcha, yeah. And then what was it like? How did you feel you fit in with the team you after you made the team? Like how do you feel you fit in with the rest of the guys?
Um, they were that year. They were so every year. All the guys were so friendly, welcoming. Like even though I had a unique path and um like wasn't like my velo was never 90. Like I was always more of a lower velocity, crafty spin junk pitcher. Um, but they were still just they treated me like one of the guys, and which was great. I mean, I remember so that year it was the older guys were Kyle Hurt, Quentin Longry, John Beller on the pitching staff, and like Beller especially, like I would kick it with him in the outfield during batting practice, and he was always so nice. He like I made a joke at one point where I think I said something like, "Oh, like I don't expect to get many innings this year." Like it was my first year, and without hesitation, Beller just goes like, "Shut up, yeah, you are." Like and like no, just very genuine. I could tell, and I was like, "Oh, these guys are awesome. Like these guys are great. That season was the one that got canceled though, by the way, COVID. So that kind of sucked. Um,
Yeah,
but
gotcha. Yeah, that's really cool that they just they treated you like you were just one of them, even though you were a walk on and you probably weren't gonna get to play. And like since you just were one of those guys, just you just want to be on the team just because like that's what you wanted to do, right? I'm assuming.
yeah. I knew like I knew my playing time was going to be low. Like it was, although I did get a decent amount of innings, especially later in my career. But I just wanted to be on the team. I wanted to be around the guys.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then what was it like? And then how did coming in as a walk on just help you understand that you could still, I guess, contribute, I guess, to, helping the other guys get better or just also, I guess, still even in some ways be a leader, even if it's, you're just being, there to support your teammates or just, support them just in that way. So just even if it's like, it's more from, the dugout or the bullpen, like that kind of way, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely I was and I'll admit in high school, like we didn't not many high schools have that kind of culture where it's like everyone's pulling the rope, no matter if you're playing, if you're on the bench. And I kind of got to see that. And like in practice, like we're all doing the drills together. In the weight room, we're doing everything. We're doing the same things. Yeah, a couple guys might be doing more weight, but like if we're doing a rep like on the field, let's say we're doing bunt defense, and I can do it as best I can and make it seem like I'm fielding bunts better than the other pitchers, then they're going to be like, okay, I need to be better. Like if the worst pitcher on the team, pitching wise, this is a hypothetical, fields bunts perfectly, then the other, because we're all competitive, like in everything, not just pitching. Like then guys are gonna be like, I want to field bunts like him. Like I want to be as good as him as fielding bunts. Like so, like we all like pull the rope in some way and together, like during the game, practice, weight room, even eating habits. I've seen guys stay on their teammates, be like, "Yo, you got to eat more. Like, you need to bulk up. You need to eat more." Like, I've seen that too, which is a great thing.
Gotcha. And then what was it like to actually, get to see game action during your, during your time on the team, even if, it was only maybe an inning here, a couple innings there, few outs over here, that sort of thing, even if it wasn't that much.
Uh, it was. I remember my first outing. Was it my first outing? No, no. Oh, my first ever outing. Yeah, it was. It was like getting an out in the bottom of the eighth when we were getting killed. So I would come in if like the pitcher, if a pitcher was struggling, and you have to remember, like we were not very good these years. Um, so we'd be down 10, it'd be bottom eight. Our pitcher would be struggling, and I'd go in and just basically Silva, the pitching coaches would say, just throw strikes, just they'll get out. Like just they're not usually it's their lower hitters because they're up by so much. They're pinch hitting all the freshmen. Just throw it over the plate, make them hit it, get an out. And that was my first few outings. I remember that exact scenario happened at UCLA once, and I came in bottom eight, two outs. We were down 10, and I gave up this fly ball to right field, not a home run. And I thought, oh, we're gonna get out of this. It was bases loaded. I come in with the bases loaded, and I turn and look to right field, and our right fielder is just palms up, just doesn't see the ball. And it like UCLA's field, like it can get really overcast, and some fly balls just get lost. Like outfielders just don't see them, and the ball lands like 10 feet behind him, and I'm just on the mound, just going, okay, like nothing I can do. Like, so that was like, I think that was my second ever outing in college baseball. And I was like, wow, that's all right. Like back to work. um, So yeah, there was a lot of ones like that, and um, but then like later in my third and fourth years, I got some more legitimate outings, which was really fun. I love those. Those are that's where it's
Can you talk about those experiences when you did get to, I guess, have you, I guess, I guess more, as you put them, like more legitimate outings, I guess.
yeah. I so one of them that I remember was it was Santa Clara. It was my third year, and I had been doing game balls for the entire game. Like just if you go to a college, like you see now sometimes they have student managers do it, but at the time we had players do it. So we had players do bat boy when one of the pitchers who wasn't playing, and then I did game balls. And we were down two or three, I think, a decently close game, but it was I think the Sunday game. So we were low on pitchers, and Silva goes, Starrels, go down to the pen, like you're gonna need to throw an inning. And I think we ended up losing by two, but that was I think that one was my first time getting more than an inning. I threw two innings, and I like to joke that it was in typical like Starrels fashion. It was like I think it was uh, no strikeouts, no walks, couple hits, no earned runs. Um, but the no strikeouts, no walks is the big thing. I like rarely ever got strikeouts because my velo was down. So like I would always throw spin and make them ground out, make them fly out, make them miss hit the barrel, and like that was my line. I think.
Hey, but at least you're getting the outs.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think like I remember Silva like I think it was Silva. He made a joke. He was like, Starrels is like the old school pitcher. He's letting him hit it. Like a lot of times like the game like a lot of times people try to like blow the fastball by him, like strike him out with a slider. And he's like, he can't do that. He has to let him hit it. Like they're not gonna be late on an 85, 86 mile an hour fastball. Like like it's just not gonna happen. Um yeah.
You'd have made Crash Davis happy, I guess, in Bull Durham, because remember he's like, make some ground balls happen.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. It's like throw some ground balls, more democratic.
Well,
I love that.
I have to like, I'm obligated to know that movie because I was named after Crash Davis.
Yeah, I figured that's a great baseball movie.
Absolutely, it's probably my favorite movie of all time. But
Oh,
anyway,
it's definitely my favorite baseball. It's definitely my favorite sports movie, 100%. And that might be a hot take, but sports movie, 100%.
yeah. But anyways, back to you now. What was it like? How's your last season as a player different at USC from your first two, considering the coaching change from Jason Gill to Andy Stankiewicz?
Yeah, it was a huge change, I think, and I'm not saying early on in the Gill era, like there was a good kind of culture, like the 15 games we played before COVID. Like, I mean, we beat Vandy, we beat TCU, like we were playing good baseball. I think with COVID and that staff, I think we just lost traction and guys just kind of we kind of lost the drive. And then when Stankiewicz came in, he like one thing that sat with me the entire year and still sits with me in our first team meeting, we're sitting in the locker room at Data, and Stankiewicz starts going over the College World Series wins that the other coaches have. Etherton won in '98. Jewett won with Vandy, I think. Or I know he has one. Jenks won with Oregon State, and Surge won with someone. I can't remember who Surge won it with, but they all.
I think it was Fullerton. I think.
Was it Fullerton?
I think so. Yeah.
I think you're
remember.
right.
I remember that video being posted on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So he's going over what the other coaches have, and he's like, "I've never had one. Like, it's time for me to get one." Like, and we all laugh, but like and a lot of guys said this like after the fact, like we were talking about it, and they were like, that's like that was a great thing he said. Um, like that, like obviously he wants, but he was like pointing out that like, look at this staff I brought in. This is a great staff. It still is a great staff. Um, um, but it's just like it was such a different like culture. There's culture, which was crazy in a year. And it's just, I mean, Seth was awesome. Like I remember my first bullpen session. He was very hands on. Like gave you drills, gave you this, gave you that, filmed you, texted it to you, picked it apart, and um, like I never really got that before, and it was great. It was great.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it seems like really there's a big culture change. Then obviously you have to stay with the team for one more year as a grad assistant for your final year of college. So what was that like transitioning more to, I guess, more of a, I guess, a coaching position more like, or grad assistant, however, whatever that like, I guess looked like. Cause I know like with every team, every program that does look kind of different, like what the role of a grad assistant is.
Yeah, it does vary. I was basically the bullpen coach. That's that's what I was. That's if you like find an MLB position, that's what I was. Um, I and it started because I had used my clock up playing, and I had said to Stank and Seth in my exit interview, and I think they kind of knew, but I was like, I'm gonna be here another year, like in my grad program. Like I have one more year. Um, I was like, I'd love to help out, like in any way. And they jumped at the idea. They were like, oh, 100%, we can use all the help we can get. And Stank pointed out, he was like, Seth's one guy. He's got 20 pitchers to be in charge of. Like that ratio is really hard for pitching coaches. So any help. So I kind of was Seth's assistant basically. Um, and it was really fun. It was really cool to play for him and then work alongside him. Like it was awesome.
And then what was it kind of like to, I guess, give advice to all these pitchers now that you're, working in that kind of, I guess, assistant, pitching coach, bullpen coach capacity?
Um, yeah, it was it was tough because there were a couple of the guys that I played with on the team, and like Tyler Stromsborg, for example, and Carson Wells, two of the guys, love these guys, but they were like, am I supposed to call you coach? And I'm like, no, I played 3 years with them. So they were my closest friends last year, like, and for even the years before. And like Tyler at one point made a joke, obviously not in front of the team, like, because he knew, he was like, yeah, he like says to me, he was like, don't take this the wrong way, but if you tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. And like I was like, that's kind of fair. Like I mean, like this is a weird relationship here. But no, the other guys were great. Like the freshmen, like, and obviously I was more of a kind of joking around coach. Like I would give them tips here and there whenever I could. Um, but no, it was fun to be there, and like even the transfers who were older. Saw me as more like one, like a kind of like the buddy coach, which was a cool environment. Yeah, Tyler and I would that was weird. That was certainly weird, like I'll admit, and like because like again 3 years of being his teammate, and all of a sudden I'm technically his like his coach. Like I don't know, but it was funny.
Did anyone ever on the team ever call you coach at all?
Oh yeah, Tanner Jewett, the equipment. Um, he was like our head, our guy in equipment. He would always like whenever I entered a room, he'd be like, "Coach Starrels," and I just like
I
he
love it.
still he still does it. I saw him at I think it was the UCLA game, and I think he said it. He might not have said it, but yeah. And then some of the guys like they would say it like sarcastically, which I was okay with. Like, yeah, like,
I
um,
love it.
and because I was like, dude, you don't have to call me like no, like it's kind of like when someone when a kid like this happened a couple times when I was working a prospect camp. Um, this was also before I was I was a player, and like some of the players worked the prospect camps, and like some of these high school kids would call me sir, and like I would call the other like the players sir. Um, and like at one point, I think it was me and like Nate Clough or someone was working the camera. I can't remember who it was. It was someone, and they called us sir, and I was like, you don't have to call me sir. Like I'm 22 years old. Like you, no, but no, like they yeah, they kind of sarcastically called me coach, which I again was okay with. Like, yeah.
Gotcha. And then are you still at all, or were you considering like getting into coaching all full time once you were, done with college after you finished your grad degree?
I thought about it. I mean, I was at a great place. I just think it was a whole nother grind to do that. And um and I loved college athletics and I loved working in it and even being on the more off the field side. Um and like believe me, I thought about it and I just think it would have been long, grueling hours, like in like, and you got to work your way up. Like I was at USC for grad assistant, but then I was going to go have to go somewhere small. And I was kind of excited to start something new.
Gotcha. I was just curious because, it's like, I mean, you're there, then obviously you do see not just baseball, but a lot of sports, you do see coaches start as grad assistants after they exhaust their eligibility. And then they just, do go on that grind of like having to go
Yeah,
all over the country to all these small schools and then finally get their big break as a head coach at a big university.
yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like there was no way around that. And there's no way I could have jumped into a position at SC like from gratis. There's no way like it just does not know. Like I mean, and so like you said, I would have had to go to all around the country, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I'd like to stay here, and um, I don't think yeah. So I don't think that was in the cards.
Yeah. So, what were some of your favorite just moments with the team over the years?
Um, oh, I mean the guys I met were great. I mean, I still talk to a bunch of them. I think individual moments. Obviously, we have our bus rides were pretty fun. Um, like we uh, obviously bus to Tuesday games, but we would, and some of those were long. But then last year we bussed to Arizona each time, which was it's tough. It's a long bus ride, but so I think that's fun. I think just the road trips are cool. Exploring the towns we go to with the guys. Like I remember in my last year playing, we were up in Berkeley, and a couple of guys that are still on the team now. Like we were just walking around. We weren't in Berkeley, but we were just like I think we got to the hotel, had about an hour or two before we had to go to practice, so we walked to like the closest Chick-fil-A's or something. And it was just like I think it was 15 of us. It was like a big group of guys, and we're still in our travel gear, and we were just walking through this little community and joking around, being college students. I remember Grudzalonic was there. I think I have a video of it on my phone. He found a shopping cart just randomly, like no store in sight, just found one and started pushing it and like running with it and just things like that. Like it was fun. I think what's another good one? Oh, we played in a hailstorm once. Stromsburg was pitching. He will never let you forget about that. He'll talk about that. He the umpires like didn't call it, and it was full on like hailing. The dirt was puddling. Like it should have been stopped. And like there's pictures of him like, and it literally looks like it's snowing like around him. Um, that was a good experience. But yeah, there's so many little ones, and just I could talk for hours. Like, I mean, just, but the road trips are great. Those are always really fun.
Yeah, even just hearing you now, I could tell you could go on even more. But
Oh yeah, I mean,
then what are
um,
some of your favorite moments like off the field, like not related to baseball?
oh, like in school,
Yeah,
I
pretty
think,
much.
oh man, there's a ton of those too. I mean, we like early on in my time at with the team, um, got like we would always be together. I think there was at the time Charlie Hurley was on the team, Garrett Guillemette, Johnny Olmstead, DeAndre Smith, all these guys, um, and it was like just you didn't even have to text like Charlie lived with Stroms in like this front house of a house there, like on I think it was 29th. Um, and it like wasn't even like you texted about it. It was like after a practice or anything, you just went there, like everybody, um, and you just hung out. So there's that. The football game days were always pretty fun in the fall because that's our preseason. But usually the baseball coaches are nice and give us Saturdays off, which is great. Um, but yeah, it was just that was great having the off field kind of just we did everything together. Like it was, and if it was ever like guys were sitting around doing nothing, like I could have texted Charlie and been like, hey, like doing nothing. He'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, I'm coming over. He'd be like, okay,
That's
like
awesome.
yeah. So that was great. And I'm not saying that was only that team. That was every team. Even my last year with the coaching change, like the culture, the social culture was great. Like everybody wanted to hang out with each other.
Well, I remember I think even a few times we hung out at a couple of football games. Even you just like text
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like I just
Oh
remember you text me, be like, "Hey man, empty seat next to you." I'm like, maybe like half a seat, but yeah, pull up if you're cool piling in.
yeah. No, that was always fun because like they would I would want to go see the game, and a lot of guys would like be at a tailgate, be at a one of the bars, and they wouldn't get to the game until like the second quarter. So sometimes, and I'm like, no, I want to go see the game. So I'd be there, and a lot of the times I'd be either with one person, like or nobody. I'd be at a one of my best friends' dad is a big SC guy and has been to like every SC football game since he graduated in the 80s. And he goes and tailgates. So I would sometimes go to his tailgate and hang out with him and bring a couple teammates because he had food, he had whatever. Um, but yeah, then I would message you and be like, "Yo, like, there's a spot there." I remember one time I saw Sean, our manager, and uh, I was like literally right behind him, and he just goes, "How did you get here?" And I literally just pointed to you. I was like, "Crash," and he was like, "Oh, okay."
I love that. But yeah, so I wanted to did ask you like, what did you get your both your undergrad and your master's in from USC?
So I got my undergrad in communication, and my master's was in communication management. I stayed in Annenberg the whole time, which was nice. I loved Annenberg. It was cool.
I'm not technically an Annenberg student, but I've just been taking classes, doing work in the media center, and I've just obviously just gotten very involved in the Soul Reporter thing, which is how I started this podcast and everything.
Oh yeah, the Annenberg Media Center. I mean, it's insane. I always like I had to give a couple tours when I was on staff to like recruits and during camps and like I would whatever, and I would always walk by Annenberg and be like, that right there looks like a CNN newsroom, and it's state of the it's great. Like this building is great.
Absolutely, could not agree with you more. And then, what are you doing now, in terms of just working full time now that you're done with college and you're not doing baseball as much?
Yeah, I mean, not doing any baseball. I haven't thrown. Guys were giving me a hard time at the alumni game. They wanted me to pitch, and I was like, if I throw a baseball, I'm gonna want to chop my arm off. Like, I like I have not thrown any like that's just um no. Like I no. My arm is and it's not my elbow. I was lucky. I never had it's my shoulder. My shoulder is just toast. But yeah, no, I think sorry, I was talking over there. I don't know if you remember Connor Clift had that quote in the interview and saying at the Pac-12 tournament was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna be sitting behind a desk telling people how cool I used to be." That's it's kind of what I'm gonna be doing soon. I'm looking to get into real estate. That's just me working, and like Connor Cliff said, I'll be behind a desk just dreaming of the baseball days. um, no, Clift is another one of those guys who's just a character. Love Connor Clift.
Yeah.
Love him.
I did a feature on him. I think we've talked about it, and
Yeah.
it was like, and I mean this in complete respect. It was like he would not stop talking, but it was such a fun interview.
Oh yeah. He could talk your ear off. Like he had these sayings on the field that just like if I said them, they wouldn't be funny, but him saying them, they're funny. Like he had one. I think I told you this at the game a week ago. If there was a close call and it went our way, no matter what it was, it could be a strike that was like there, but like the umpire called it in our favor. Um, uh, like so, say it was a ball, and the other team reacts and they're like, "Oh, come on!" Like Cliff would shout out, like, "Not even if there was a fire." Um,
All right. Yeah.
which,
All right.
which is
Yeah.
it's a Step Brothers reference,
Yeah.
and it's just other guys would try to do it. It like caught on, but it was not as funny when if Cliff didn't do it. And but yeah, he was so great. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet. Yeah. It was great to see him the other day. And I did want to ask you kind of about that too. Like, what's it like now pulling up to games as a fan? And, I guess sort of, in some capacity, now just kind of being on the outside looking in.
yeah. Um, it was weird the first time. I was like wandering around the concourse at Great Park and I was just like, what the like I'm on this side? Like I was 5 years I was on the field, like whether it was a player or on the coaching staff um and then even UCLA was weird for me too because I grew up like really close to there. So UCLA is where I went to college. I went to both UCLA and USC games, but uh, Jackie Robinson Stadium is like a 10-minute, 15-minute drive from where I grew up, like excluding traffic, of course. But so like I went there as a kid, and then being a player, coach, and then now like I'm back on the other side. It's weird, but it's kind of nice. There's all those like unwritten rules in baseball, and like you have to stay locked in, which you should. I'm not saying don't, um, but like as a fan, I can zone out. I can look in the clouds. I can like talk to my dad next to me. Like I was sitting with my dad at the game, and um, but yeah, it's weird, but it's fine. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, and I think because I respect that about all the student athletes here, it's like I never would talk to someone unless they talked to me first. Maybe my only exception to that rule was actually starting pitchers on the baseball team if I knew it was their night off.
You wouldn't talk to them,
Or just would I wouldn't talk to anyone unless they talked to me first.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unless it was a starting pitcher. That's kind of
yeah.
my like
Um,
one that's probably the one exception to that rule I've made. And
yeah,
even still, I don't bend it. I don't really even as much don't do it that much.
I yeah, at Great Park, I baseball players definitely respect that because they are kind of trying to focus, especially if during the pitching. But yeah, like um, and the guys hitting, like I wouldn't talk, but any of the guys on the bench, like at Great Park, I would like lean over and be like, "Hey, hey, like, like," and then just chirp at them. But yeah, the pitcher the next day is always like doing something,
Gotcha.
like chart or something.
I feel like for you it's a little different because you're on the team, whereas I've never been on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you've got more leeway than I do for sure.
Yeah, it was funny at the game. I started talking to this guy who was there. I like called down and like I can't remember who I waved to. Rock was there. Rock Hudgens. Uh, uh, I think it was one of the players. I kind of like gave him a little hat tip or whatever. And this one guy next to me goes, "Oh, who do you know down there?" And I was just like all of them, like. And I told him I was like, I was on the staff last year, so I know like half these guys. And he was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And then he just started bombarding me with questions, which is fine. I'm okay with that. Um, but um, yeah, so it's fun being on the other side because no stress.
For real. Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah,
But
no stress anymore. The stress was fun for a little bit. Now I'm done.
and then I did want to ask you, obviously, USC's now in a new conference in the Big Ten. Looking at just the schedule this year, what's left of it, well, most of it at this point, but what do you think the key to success is for the team as in the Big Ten in their first season as, members of this conference?
I think so that they have not only are they in the Big Ten and going place to place across the country every other weekend, they they don't have a stadium yet. So they're in a hotel every weekend, just like last year. Last year we were in a hotel every single weekend, actually, except one weekend. We weren't in a hotel the weekend we played at UCLA because we just drove back to campus and bus there every day. But for home weekends, they're in a hotel in Irvine, and I think like last year I kind of noticed it was tough. Not sleeping in your own bed. You might think like, oh, that's a little thing, but no, that's a big thing. I think it just takes a lot more and holding each other accountable. It's focus on your hydration, get sleep, like make good choices, like don't especially during season, but like really prepare yourself for the long travel and really it's the time away. That's the hardest part. So like I think the Big Ten travel at some point, like guys will get like years down the road, it'll become normal ish. Um, is it annoying to go to Penn State for a conference game? I'm sure, but it's just the way it is now. They're going to have to come to you the next year. So um,
I did want to ask you actually kind of what was that like, even as you were still with the team, what was that like just, kind of, having to go through that, transition, just reality of, all your home games, majority of them are going to be at Great Park in Irvine.
mhm. um, I think the team did a really good job prior going into it as like staying positive and being like, yeah, like we don't have a home. That's okay. And for the most part, like all of them were like fighting through it and doing their best they can to kind of mitigate the struggle of being in a hotel. But I could kind of see it affected them. Obviously, no, like we don't want to make excuses, but like it did. It was really tough, especially the first few weeks of last season. Um, and I just think it was kind of a shock. But no one complained. Like I didn't hear anything, but I could kind of see guys were moving differently. Um, and then it took like a little bit into the season for them to kind of get going. So I don't know for sure, but I think it was maybe the hotel issue.
Well, I think also you definitely, I think, at least this is how I see it as someone, who is on the outside looking in and went to a lot of games, was that I think they did get more comfortable, especially at the end there when, I think it was what, a 9 game winning streak made it to the Pac-12 tournament championship. And if you win that game, you're going to the NCAAs. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
think you could definitely, and I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there was something that was found that was like, all right, we got this. We're figuring this whole road thing out. We got this, I guess.
I think, yeah, no, you're exactly right. it was definitely late in the season, but even like halfway through the season, I mean, we finished, I think it was 17 and 13, 17 and 12 in the
17 and
pack,
12, yeah.
17 and 12. Um, so we were winning conference series. We were avoiding sweeps as much as we could. Which was great. That's the hardest thing is if like and unfortunately they just got swept by Oregon. But it's okay. I mean first series like they got time. Like there's no need to panic. But no, last season you're right. Like it was just they knew it was we have to win to move on. And I heard that in team meetings and like motivational like shouts from captains like that we knew and we addressed it with them. We were like, we don't have a record that will get us to the postseason. If we want to play in the postseason, we have to win it all. It's that simple. And honestly, I think that was the best thing for that team. Like, because it lit a fire under their asses. Like they were playing for their lives, and I think the year before, so my last year playing, like we were 33 and 22 and one, I think, something like that, 34, 22 and one, and we thought we were going to make it, and we didn't. I think if we had that same fire, maybe we would have gotten farther. I don't know. Like that's the kind of one of those what ifs. Like in you can't really think that way, but everyone kind of does in their heads.
What was that like? I mean, just facing that rejection that your last season as a player when you guys all thought you'd make it and then just you never hear your name called.
Um, God, that yeah, we were all in the locker room watching together. It was tough. I mean, we all. I don't think there was a single one of us that thought like legitimately like we were gonna get overlooked because I mean, like it was one of those ones where it's like I think our home record was unbelievable and our away record wasn't that great. Um, but I mean, we got 34 wins. We got 34 wins. I mean, we had one tie at Auburn. Long story. Um, but uh, no, it was just, I think we were all kind of shocked. I mean, we obviously knew there was a chance, but we were like we finished fourth in Pac-12. We finished with 34 wins. Like how does that not get selected? But that's in the past. That's done. We can't do anything about it.
I was just curious kind of what that was like for you. I've talked to a few other guys, but I really wanted to, since we kind of brought it up, I was like curious to hear your perspective on it. I got a
Yeah.
couple more. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was then, and I still am at a loss for words. Like I could go on a rant and get angry and do that, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, it's over.
Yeah, I got a couple more questions for you, then I'll let you go. So, what's the
Mm-hmm.
best advice you've ever gotten throughout your life?
To my life. Baseball wise or anything.
It can be anything, baseball, life, whatever, just best advice.
Oh, I got one. Um, it was I was in high school, and it never really sat with me until I kind of got to experience the schedule of a college athlete. Um, a former, I don't even remember how I met him, but it was this guy who went and played um, college athletics it was a Division III, but it was a good Division III school. I think he played football though. He said, as a college student and especially as an athlete, um, if you have free time, think about what you can do, like homework, maybe go get a workout in, like if you're an athlete, study, even if you have no homework due, but you have an exam next week, you might think like, oh, like I got time. Like he was like, take 20 minutes, like for your time management skills, like obviously for your grades, like you want those to be as best as that you can. But he said, this will teach you time management and like get you focused on the right things. Like that was the best thing that someone could have taught me or could have told me, because like I got to college and was like, oh, like yeah, it'll be hard. I'll be okay. Like I'll figure it out as I go. And then I just remember that guy saying, like, I was sitting in like my room, like, and I thought about turning on Netflix and watching a movie, and I was like, wait, I have a paper due in 2 weeks. Why don't I just like get it going? Like even just start it for 30 minutes. And next thing you know, I realized like down the road, a practice went long and I don't have as much time to work on it. And those 30 minutes I did previously kind of helped a lot. I think that's what I would tell a lot of athletes is if you ever have free time, doubt it. Like there's something you could do. And if you do, great. And you want to play Xbox, you want to watch Netflix, you want to watch a movie, fine. But just double check. See if you have a paper. See if you can go play catch. If you're a pitcher and you haven't played catch that day, or you haven't done your conditioning, or you can get a little extra workout in, or you can go see the trainer. If your arm's a little bothering you, go see the trainer, get some treatment. Like there's something you could be doing.
Gotcha. Then my final question for you, Jason, is what's the best advice to anyone who they see your story, they want to be like you, they're trying to, walk onto their university's baseball team. What advice do you have for them?
Um, hmm. I think I'll just use this to talk to pitchers in like
That's fine.
specifically. So, because I just don't know. Like
Com-
hitters are,
Completely valid.
yeah, yeah. A lot for someone like me. What I had to do, it's a little two-parter. One, just focus on throwing strikes. If you're trying to walk on as a pitcher, like I can promise you, the coach, unless you're throwing 98 miles an hour, the coaches aren't going to care if you're throwing 91, 92 if you're nowhere near the strike zone. They're not going to care. If you can't find the strike zone, you're not going to get out. So they're not going to swing it the pitch. And I just not so much at SC, like guys kind of knew it, but I saw a lot of time. I've seen so many kids in high school and some on Ventura, like they would just like try to throw the ball as hard as they could and didn't really care where it was going to go. And I was like, dude, like take 2 miles an hour off of that and throw it down the middle. I promise you the coach will look at you more seriously. And then like that one, and another thing for walk-ons kind of added onto that is like what I told myself, like just because I was on the spring roster doesn't mean that I can't be cut or the next year just be like, all right, see you. Like treat every week like a tryout. Like that's what I did. I like even like especially in the fall, like every fall after my first year, I was like, all right, like I'm in tryout mode again. Like I could be booted. Like if I don't have a good fall, like so that's like another one where it's just like like nothing is guaranteed. Like you still have to fight for it.
All right. I love that answer, Jason. So
Um,
thank you again for your time today. It was really cool to hear about your journey as a walk-on, especially as we talked about at the start, just how just the presence and role of walk-ons may change in college athletics. So I think it was definitely really insightful to hear from you today. So thank you again for joining us.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, we'll see what happens with the change. I think you're right. There'll be some changes, but it's okay. I mean, people will find a way to walk on again, I guess.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it for us here on Behind the Caution Tape. A big thank you to USC baseball alum Jason Starrels for sharing his story as a walk on. Make sure to follow him on Instagram at Jason Starrels. Follow me at CrashLit. Check out my website, crashlit.com, and I'll see y'all next Monday for the Monday Rundown. Fight on.